Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the latest edition of Wow, Lynch, Wow, dedicated to filmmaker David Lynch and inspired by the triumphant return of Twin Peaks. A friendly warning to everyone who isn't caught up on all 14 episodes of the new Twin Peaks. There will be spoilers and they will begin shortly. So viewers and listeners, be warned. Now we know that the first Blue Rose case involved a woman named Lois Duffy in 1975 who was being investigated for murder by a young Gordon Cole and Philip Jeffries. The woman had a doppelganger who committed crimes, the doppelganger died and vanished, and the real Lois Duffy denied committing the murder she was charged of before hanging herself in her jail cell. Did this story just give away the entire idea behind the ending? Is the real FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper going to be charged for crimes he didn't commit that were actually undertaken by Bad Coop? Will our beloved Dale Cooper ultimately return only to succumb to madness? Whatever the case may be, I'm convinced that pretty soon the characters of Twin Peaks will be confused by which Coop is which. And not only do I believe the characters will be confused, but soon enough, I believe the audience will be confused too. And that assumes we haven't been confused already between the two Coops. But before we get into the idea of an ending, let's first talk about the idea that Lois Duffy and her doppelganger kicked off the very first Blue Rose case. We know that Agent Cooper has a doppelganger who's been on the loose these last 25 years. His doppelganger also has an affiliation with the entity known as Bob. We first learned about Bob through Leland Palmer, who at the time we were led to believe was some sort of parasitic demonic entity. As far as we know, Bob was hosting the real-life Leland Palmer. It was pretty straightforward. But we have since learned that Bob's origin dates back to 1945, during the first nuclear test, which fucked up the fabric of our universe in such a way that it enabled the mother of all evil to cough up a bunch of evil frog moth eggs and the Bob orb. At this point in the story, I'm still not exactly sure how Bob possessing the real Leland differs from Bob possessing Cooper's doppelganger. The only outward differences I see is with Leland, Bob was all about chaos and instant gratification. And at the conclusion of season 2, Bob seemed similar when we saw him briefly with Doppelcoop. But here in the return, Doppelcoop is much more cold, calculated, and measured. Much more so than Leland ever was. Is this because Bob is taking on the form or the personality of his host? That would sort of make sense. Or is it because Bob is now with a doppelganger instead of being with the real Cooper? And is there even really a difference between possessing a doppelganger and possessing a true human? I'm not exactly sure how doppelgangers are created. Laura seemed to have one. Leland seemed to have one. Cooper definitely has one. Mike doesn't seem to have one, but strangely enough, his arm does. The giant doesn't appear to have one. Where the fuck did they come from? And on that note, how the hell was Dougie manufactured? Is this similar to the process of creating doppelgangers? Or is it something different entirely? And then to make matters even more confusing, we have Sarah Palmer, spookier than ever, pulling her face off to reveal she's possessed by something utterly horrific. It looked to be a hand with a tainted spiritual finger, going back to what Cole told Tammy about the fingerprints, and then it appeared to be a smiling Laura Palmer surrounded by darkness. When Laura pulled her face off in the lodge, it revealed a bright beaming light that radiated goodness and pureness. But whatever Laura whispered to Cooper scared the shit out of him, and then Laura got sucked violently away before Cooper admired the handsome white horse. What the fuck is going on with Sarah? I don't think she's possessed in the same sense that Bob possessed Leland. And I also feel this is something kind of new. I don't think that Sarah was always like this, not even when she delivered her spooky message to Major Briggs. I think this is something very new and very different, and it almost seems to me as if Laura Palmer and the mother of all evil are both occupying space inside Sarah as a vessel. But I think it's a different type of possession altogether than the Bob Leland situation. It seems like something more powerful and more dangerous going on here. I think there's possibly an inner struggle going on inside of Sarah, and that the mother and Laura are battling it out like two super artificial intelligences playing chess inside her head. The mother appears to be winning the battle, as evidenced by Laura's smile surrounded by darkness. Or maybe this is the mother of all evil with Laura's doppelganger inside of Sarah? I don't know. But I'm afraid for Sarah, which is ironic considering how well she handled herself with that scumbag. But I think whatever is inside her, it's bound to be released sooner or later, and I have a sneaking suspicion that this is tied into the motives of Bad Coop, and that he's somehow trying to release or control or harvest this power. I also think Naito may be a key to doing that. Whatever is happening to Sarah, I imagine it only happened recently, and I think the moment of possession probably occurred when Good Coop switched with Dougie instead of Bad Coop, around the time the mother was killing poor Sam and Tracy. We finally got to see Jackrabbit's palace, and it was revealed that Andy is a major player. Andy's a big-time player now. And why the Giant chose Andy, and Freddy for that matter, that remains a mystery. But the firemen showed Andy a cool movie that essentially revealed everything to Andy. The moment Andy emerged carrying the eyeless woman, he instantly seemed to take on a whole new element of leadership and authority. This wasn't the Andy we always knew. But then, he was the same old Andy we all know and love when him and Lucy fitted Naito into that bathrobe before locking her in a jail cell in close proximity to two low-life scumbags. But Andy has the vision, and he knows what's up, even if he doesn't immediately remember everything. Andy knows. The eyeless woman, Naito, she definitely plays an important role in all of this. And not only did they lock her away in the jail cell, but apparently they never decided to have her checked out by a doctor. You would think such an important piece of the puzzle, they might have a doctor look in on her considering the circumstances under which they found her. The note left by Major Briggs says they have to go to Jackrabbit's palace at that specific time, 2:53, on 2 consecutive days. So the crew will be headed back there, and this time, I'm wondering if they won't be alone. I'm thinking there might be some party crashers here on the next trip. It shouldn't be long now before Hutch and Chantel reach Vegas for the doubleheader. I have always assumed and continue to believe that the doubleheader is Duncan Todd and Dougie Coop. But regardless of the targets, it shouldn't be long before the Blue Rose team follows suit. It'll be interesting to learn if Diane and Janie E are indeed estranged half-sisters, but either way, I think we're headed to an epic conclusion in Vegas, involving Janie E, Sonny Jim, battling Bud Mullins, Candy, Sandy, and Mandy, the fired-up Mitchum brothers, Hutch and Chantel, Duncan Todd, Gordon Cole, Albert Diane, Tammy, and hell, I'm even still holding hope that Bill Shaker may show up again. And of course, we have FBI Special Agent Dale Cooper living his life as Dougie Jones. I have no idea how this will play out in Vegas, but I suspect it will conclude with the Blue Rose team taking Cooper to Twin Peaks. Whether he's still Dougie Coop, or whether he returns to form as Agent Cooper, I'm not really sure. But one way or another, I think they'll definitely take him and be headed to Twin Peaks. Meanwhile, I also believe we're heading towards another epic moment when everyone returns to Jack Rabbit's palace. I'm assuming Hawk, Bobby, Truman, and Andy will all make the return trip. And I think some others might be there as well, invited or otherwise. And in the end, I have a sneaking suspicion that this is the time when Bad Coop might surface and trick the waiting, mesmerized bystanders, trick them into believing he's the real Cooper. So I think we're building up to something epic in Vegas. I think we're building up to something epic at Jack Rabbit's palace. And I think after that, we're building up to a powerhouse ending of legendary proportions. The ultimate showdown of the two Coopers. Not unlike the showdown between the two Lois Duffys all those years ago during the first Blue Rose case in 1975. But I imagine there are many other players in this final act that all serve a greater purpose. Freddy being the obvious one, but I don't think Freddy's going to wind up arm wrestling Bad Coop or punching someone's lights out. I think it's going to be something different than that. But Freddy's Hulk hand will serve some purpose, no doubt. But somehow, and I have no idea how, but somehow I believe many other characters still have pivotal roles to play in these final 4 hours. Sarah Palmer, Naito, Andy, Hawk, Red, Richard Horn, Bobby Briggs, Becky, Jerry Horn, at least one Truman, Dr. Jacoby, Gordon Cole, Albert, Tammy, Audrey, Billy, and for the record, I still don't think we've actually seen Billy yet. I don't think he's the guy in the jail, and I also don't think he's the farmer who no-showed Andy. But anyway, I think there's even more that might possibly come into play for this final stretch, like Scumbag Steven, Jimmy, Carl, Shelley, Lucy, maybe Wally Brando, Ed and Nadine, and maybe even Philip Jeffries and or Philip Gerard. I have no idea how all of these characters fit into the bigger picture, but I suspect most of those I just mentioned do indeed fit in some way or another. But I'm just waiting for things to end with Dougie Coop looking in the mirror, smashing his face, seeing Laura's doppelganger before saying, "How's Sonny Jim? How's Sonny Jim? How's Sonny Jim?" However things ultimately pan out and come to a conclusion, it's been such an enjoyable ride for me personally, where I honestly feel they keep raising the bar each and every week. I'm confident that Lynch and Frost have something very special in store for us, and while I can't believe it's only 4 hours left, look at the bright side. That's the length of 2 feature films, and I believe the best is definitely yet to come. I can't wait to see how it all plays out. Some may even say that I'm just itching to find out. That's all I got. Thank you very much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the episode. Please share your thoughts in the comments section, and have a terrific night, everyone.